No, ladies and gentlemen. It has not been fun in Union Nation, but hey, maybe we have some luck because the opponent we'll be facing off is also in a bad spot. Welcome, everyone, to today's edition of PHLY Union Podcast. I'm your host here today, JP Zapata. We gave Renee the day off. She's been working her butt off, so we gave her the day off. So joining here with me today, with eyes on the other side here, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a dear friend to the podcast, Sam Minton, the site manager of the Blazing Musket, my brother Sam. What's going on? How are we feeling, brother?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I don't know about the Revolution, don't know about the Union, but I'm doing good. Happy to be back, and just wish I could talk to you about a better soccer team right now.
Dude, I'm in the same boat too. Obviously, listen, the Union have not been playing well, and it's bad when raccoons are taking over the headlines of the Union, and it's not even the bad play of the U. It's been the raccoon. He's been everywhere. He's got a Topps card, dude. You can buy his card now. It's absolutely wild stuff. But Sam, we'll talk about both these teams, but it's just crazy to me because going into the season, now I didn't have New England near the top, so I still thought that they would be a playoff squad. But even like last year, a couple of years ago, these were two of the contending teams here in the Eastern Conference, and obviously New England's been rough all season long. The Union are feeling it now, man. But it's a little bit weird talking about these two teams struggling right now, brother.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting with the Union. Obviously, there's not necessarily a ton of turnover there. Obviously, Jim Curtin playing a big role. But when you look at the Revs, there sort of isn't that turnover. You have Caleb Porter taking over as head coach, major change from Bruce Arena. You have Curtin Alfo permanently now as sporting director. But when you look at the roster, not a lot of changes, but now the Revolution are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So it's been really interesting to kind of see. You've seen faces come in. There's rumors of faces coming out. But still, it's the same roster that was near the top of the Eastern Conference. Like you said, I wasn't necessarily expecting the Revolution to be at the top of the Eastern Conference, but definitely thought they would be in the playoff fight. So to see them in the bottom of the Eastern Conference is really tough for fans and kind of tough to watch as well, too.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, and that's what makes the MLS so great. Is that listen, it's not like La Liga or like Premier League, like like in La Liga, Premier League, like Real Madrid, Barcelona, or your Manchester United's, Man City's, Liverpool's. They're going to be a contending team here in the MLS. You have a little bit of parity, which is great, but it can also be bad when you're a fan of a team like New England or Philadelphia right now. But let's talk about the Reds. Let's dive deeper into that. Obviously, you mentioned it, post Bruce Arena, right? The congestion at the beginning of the season did not bode well for anybody, right? But what exactly has been going on with the New England Revolution? You talked about not too much turnover. Is it that? Is it Caleb Porter? What's exactly going on with your Revs?
I mean, I do think part of it is Caleb Porter wanting to play a pretty, I want to say strict, but he definitely wants to implement his style of play. It seemed like under Bruce Arena, the Revs were pretty much run and gun. I think that's even how Omar or some other players would describe it. And now Caleb's really someone who does want to press. He kind of goes back and forth publicly when he talks about kind of building out the back. But I would say he does kind of want to be a team that plays out the back, isn't necessarily playing that route one style play. Of course, they'll occasionally go direct. But he really has this style of play that I think it's taken a while for the Revolution to really, get a hold of. And, there's some players who have been able to do well. Definitely someone like Thomas Shanka, like Carlos Heel can pretty much do it all. But when it comes to the center backs, it's been interesting to see Dave Romney apparently just fall out of favor. Tom Bogart was the one to report that he was on the trading block. Caleb Porter seemed to refute that, but I'll trust Tommy Scoops on that one.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you now have Xavier Arriaga in the back line with Henry Kessler. That seems to be the preferred center back pairing. Arriaga, great with his feet and kind of able to build out of the back. But the Revolution also just completely lack goal scoring. Carlos Heels really had to put the team on his back. He's usually someone who is setting players up. Now he's kind of tasked with scoring goals. And Thomas Shankla has been kind of up and down as well, too. So it's kind of from top to bottom. There's been a lot of mishaps. And you had Henrik Ravas coming in the offseason. He's now your backup. You have Ivichich come in and take the starting role. So from front to center, from front to back, there's been a lot of issues and kind of struggles adjusting the Caleb Porter system.
Yeah, no, that was a main alarming thing to me because the one thing you always knew about New England was, listen, the defense wasn't always the strongest, right? But they got the job done. But more importantly, you always had really strong goalkeeping. And now, yeah, obviously, we talk about Turner, Petrovic as well. But I looked at it now. It was like 22 goals you guys have allowed this season. That's incredible. Is it the back line? Is it defense? Is it a team thing? What exactly? It's a lot of goals, brother.
Yeah, I definitely think that part of it can be defense, especially if you kind of look at the last game against New York Red Bulls. It was a pretty poorly defended game, as much as Caleb Porter likes to say that they had a pretty decent defending performance. I thought, 3 out of the 4 goals, maybe even the handball, you could say Henry Kessler could have done a little bit better, but definitely 3 out of the 4 goals, it was just pretty poor defending. And so there is part of that blame, but Henrik Ravas just got off to a really rough start. It just seemed like he was lacking confidence. And then now you have Ivic coming in. He's making some great saves, but I know Taylor Twellman's said it before, so this isn't an original thought. But with Matt Turner and George Petrovic, they were performing above their expectations. They were making incredible saves and literally saving the Revolution. But now with Ivic, Ravis, you're kind of regressing to the mean. You're having an average goalkeeper. Ivic, I would say, so far has been above average, but you're kind of regressing, and you're not going to be able to simply win games by having a goalkeeper who's going to make amazing saves. You're going to have to be well defensively, also score goals. You're not going to win a shutout per se. So yeah, definitely think that someone like, Ivic is a good goalkeeper, but the Revolution are now seeing what the rest of MLS has to deal with.
Yeah, we'll see if that long tutelage of goal, because it was there for a while, man. You guys had good goalie after good goalie. We'll see if that continues there. I want to stick on to that Caleb Porter point. He's semi-polarizing, right? Like, he's won in Portland, he's won in Columbus. Now he's here with the New England Revs. Not a great start. What was your perception of the hiring, and what do you feel about him now on May 17th?
Well, I think when you looked at it from the beginning, it definitely kind of made sense. It looked like this team was in a position to still win now. It was a condition to be a contender. And so you have Caleb Porter. He's a proven winner. He's been able to go into organizations, get them to win. After that, don't know if it necessarily goes too well. But now, kind of looking back, definitely kind of seems like a safe hire, if you want to call it that. And it seems like the goalposts have been moved in the sense that Caleb Porter said that, the roster really stood out to me. And, this is a team that can compete. And now he's talking about making moves. And it seems like we've gone from being a contender in the Eastern Conference. Now the Revolution are pretty much in a rebuild mode, it seems like, which is crazy to think with Carlos Heel still on the roster. So I don't know if it's necessarily a mistake. There's still a lot of the season to go. But you brought in Caleb Porter to win an MLS Cup, and with how he's done in other places, you'd assume that would happen within a year or two. It isn't looking like that's going to happen. So if you have to ask me now, I would probably say wasn't the best move hiring him, especially with the layoff and seeing what Columbus was able to do once he ended up leaving.
Yeah, it's really tough. Man, he had a really good attack out there, man, and they really bought in. I feel like every Portland and Columbus, like, they did buy in, but like, every sport, right? Like, a manager, a coach's message can get stale. That's kind of what happened with Portland and Columbus. But it's still plenty of time here for Caleb. But we'll see how that kind of plays out. What's the summer plan here, man? Like, obviously the summer transfer window is right around the corner here. Does New England still see themselves as a team that could still make the playoffs? How do you think they're going to attack this summer?
Yeah, I definitely think, at least outwardly, they're definitely projecting that, they can turn things around. But Caleb Porter's been pretty open, saying that they're going to have to make some changes, like, move some players out, move some players in. Wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Dave Romney go. Obviously, there's some MLS roster rules that could be coming in the summer, additional buyout, as well as kind of decoupling the DPs and the U22 players. That could open up some flexibility for the Revolution. I would guess they would go out and get at one or possibly two strikers. Giacomo Vrioni just hasn't been living up to
I was
expectations.
going to
And
ask that. Yeah.
yeah, even if it's not to replace Vrioni, you need to add some depth, because Bobby Wood has been barely able to play. Same with Tommy McNamara. They look like they could be buyout candidates. And obviously the MLS salary data came out, and it looks like there's some questionable deals, to say the least, in terms of the New England Revolution. So I'm expecting a lot of moves, whether it be inwards or outwards. I think the roster is going to look pretty different come the summertime and especially the end of the 2024 season.
Holy crap, man! It feels like Busca and Bell was like 10 years ago, bro.
Oh, the days of Adam Buksa hitting the post and us being mad about that, and the Revs, actually winning and competing. It seems like an eternity ago. You're definitely right, man.
Busca and Buchanan, man. I still have nightmares of them too in Subaru Park in 2020.
Oh, I know. It's so funny, like, especially, in the COVID season, it's like the Union and I face each other so many times. And now it seems like the two teams are in completely different places.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild, man. Let's look at that attack real quick. Obviously, listen, you talked about it. Carles Gil, dude, he's still really, really good. Still can thread the needle there. It's a little bit tough when you don't have that forward help there to kind of receive the passes there. But Shankali really has intrigued me. Now, I noticed his game a little bit last year, but I don't know if it like he feels more comfortable. He's been taking these long shots, which I don't know if you've been watching the Union lately. It makes me a little nervous. We've allowed a couple screamers as of late. So with Shankali feeling himself, it definitely does worry me, man.
I do got some good news for you. He's not playing this
Oh,
week.
good. Well, not good. What's going on?
No, yellow card accumulation.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's suspended for this week.
Thought it was injury. Okay.
Yeah, so he is a player, kind of reminds me of Gustavo Bo, obviously, both from Argentina, where they can launch shots from anywhere. And it's been interesting. Caleb Porter has played him out wide, which he was more used to, and then has also played him as a striker, which it seems like Caleb Porter kind of sees him potentially being moving forward. But he's really talented, can kind of go at opponents, and is definitely someone, like you said, who can launch a shot from anywhere. So definitely sounds like it's good for the Uni that he won't be playing. Who is he going to be replaced by? It seems like it could be Ima Boateng. Dylan Barrero suffered that injury. He's all right, but it's going to be interesting to see if he's available, especially to start. So it seems like it could be Ima Boateng and Esmir Baraktarovic on the wings.
Did you guys use Shankali last year more of like a holding defensive guy? Or
He was more on the wing,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
So he was more of a winger, and then he's been kind of going back and forth, but it definitely seems like he has a bit more confidence. He was able to get that permanent move. He is the DP now. So I think it boosts his confidence a little bit, but I also think it can be tough when you have Rioni up top trying to get him, into good positions. Players talk that, he's going into the right positions, but it just seems like whether it be too focused on making runs, not really being a complete striker in terms of hold-up play, it just seems like something isn't working with Rioni. He was able to score a goal against New York Red Bulls, but it was, at the end of the game, it seemed like everything was – it seemed like the Red Bulls were going to win that one, so it's kind of just a consolation prize for him. But yeah, definitely have been impressed, but he does need to be a little bit more consistent, and especially for Shankali, don't pick up those yellow cards.
That's key, man. That's key. That definitely could have helped you guys against us here this weekend. Is there any other injuries or any other key missing pieces for New England this Saturday?
Yeah, they definitely have been dealing with a few injuries. I mean, they've been dealing with illness too. Ryan Spalding, I believe it was the day before the game, ended up contracting an illness, and he ended up missing that Red Bulls game. So it'll be interesting to see if he's back on starting 11, because the Revolution definitely could use outside back depth. Considering Brandon Bye is still hurt, DeJuan Jones has been dealing with an injury. Seems like he's progressing, but I don't know if he'll be ready. Obviously, the U.S. men's national team roster announcement coming up on Monday would be big if he was to be healthy. But also, too, Jonathan Mensah has been dealing with an injury. Like I mentioned, Tommy McNamara and Bobby Wood have struggled to make the field at all. It just seems like Bobby Wood is dealing with a chronic knee injury, so it's a real kind of tough blow to him. He was someone who looked pretty good last season. But besides that, they are looking pretty healthy. Peyton Miller has been someone who has also been injured, but if he could get healthy, he's another option out for outside back. But I think in terms of Barrero, it's kind of 50-50 if he'll be available. And even if he's available, I imagine it's a sub. But besides that, Caleb Porter seems to have his guys that he wants to play, no matter if the Revolution are completely healthy or not.
All right. So real quick, I want to talk about obviously the salaries how were released the other day here for the MLS, and ironically enough, Messi's he makes more money like 25 other teams as far as this whole salary, which is absolutely wild, right? But you guys were pretty high up. I think you guys were like right below Messi's what he's making a year. So you guys are at 18,320. 184 there, so that's pretty good for you guys. And so I guess going forward here, what is the plan for New England long term? I mean, you guys definitely have. It's not like you guys haven't been scared of spending money, but what is the long term plan for the Revs?
Yeah, I think, you mentioned it. The Revs are spending money, and especially the fan base, and especially with, Robert Kraft owning the Patriots. The perception is that, oh, Robert Kraft or the organization doesn't want to spend money. So they are spending money. It just doesn't necessarily seem like they're spending it in the most efficient way. It was really interesting to see how much Henry Kessler is getting paid, I believe around $1 million. Henry Kessler's a pretty good defender, but if you're making $1 million, I think you have to be one of the best defenders in MLS. So it's really interesting to see that. Andrew Farrell's making, I believe, around $600,000, similar to Dave Romney. And Dave Romney's pretty much just sitting on the bench now. I would love to see him play, but I don't know if Caleb Porter will give him that opportunity. And then obviously you have the DPs, Giacomo Vrioni, making over $1 million and just hasn't been able to live up to that tag. So it seems like the long-term goal is to kind of shed some salary, make some moves outwards, and hopefully, with the summer transfer window opening up, hopefully getting those new rules in place that you'll have some flexibility to go out, get a young player, U22, whether it be a striker, midfielder. It just seems like the Revolution kind of need an injection of life. You had a signing like Gustavo Bo, who was able to kind of change things for the franchise. You had a signing like Buxa, and just so many of these signings, and Carlos Gil, of course. So you had these signings, and it just seems like Chankalai's been good. Dylan Barrero struggled to stay healthy, but if you're able to kind of get one of those marquee signings, whether it be striker or a really good midfielder, it seems like it could turn the tide. But for right now, it isn't exactly the future isn't exactly looking as bright as we once thought for the Revolution.
Dude, trust me, I completely hear that, man. It's kind of same here with Philly. It's ironic here. So, like, when you're looking at the Union heading into this match, obviously it's been bad as of late. I think I tweeted it out. It's 6 games that they haven't won. 4 straight home. Obviously, won't be at Super Park, but 4 straight home losses. I mean, Sam, that's not Union soccer. Typically, Super Park has been a fortress, and it just looks like a mess. I mean, defensively, we're allowing way too many goals than we usually do. No Andre Blake, which is huge, as you know, missing your top goalkeeper is big now. Oliver Zemla, his replacement, young, but he's done as best as he can, right, with a team that in front of him hasn't played their strongest defense. And then, the attack has been playing a little bit better as of late, but they just kind of are missing that next piece, right? Because I think a lot of people already had the tape on Gazak, Carranza, and Ua, and Carranza 2 matches ago wasn't able to play in the second half against NYCFC on Wednesday. He really tried to do his best to kind of will the team back, but this team, it's interesting because when you're running it back for 3 straight seasons, that's been the topic. You're running it back for 3 straight seasons with essentially the same lineup here, same coach, same philosophies. All these clubs have the tape. All these clubs have a game plan or an idea of how to beat the Philadelphia Union. And this has kind of been the tough part. And, hearing you talk about New England, and obviously you guys are going through your bumps and bruises, implementing a new manager. You're going through injuries, some turnover there as well. But it just kind of feels like, Sam, this is setting up to be a little bit of a shit show. I'm not gonna lie to you. It does feel like, Saturday night we could be talking about a little bit of a shit show. Could it be? It feels like a little bit maybe a 0-0 game, or someone's gonna win 1-0, a crazy type of goal. But like these two teams really desperate for a good result here, man. It's gonna be to see what happens in Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, usually when these two teams are going up against each other, you're definitely, I would say, expecting some goals, expecting some dark arts. I'll never forget Henry Kessler tossing that ball.
Oh my God.
Best moment ever. But it's really interesting because it's this weird place where usually if the Revs were in the state that they are right now, I would be like, oh, the Union are going to come in, they'll minimum get a draw, or they'll leave with all 3 points. But it's just been really interesting, especially kind of watching the last Union game. They just really seem like they're for the taking, and whether it just be kind of striking on the counter, it just really seems like they're a team that could, the Revolution could get a win, which is definitely rare for them this season.
You're 100% right, man. This really could go either way. All right, let's look at this match here. So first off, I want to start off with the lineup. What could this potential starting lineup look like for New England?
Yeah, I definitely think it's probably going to be pretty similar to what they've been rolling out recently. Obviously, Shankar is going to throw a little bit of a wrench. But definitely Vrioni up top. I would say Ima Boateng and Esmir Baratarovic on the wings. I did forget to mention Nacho Heel did suffer. It looked pretty bad injury. He's going to be out for at least a few months, Caleb Porter said. In the midfield, number 10, Carlos Heel, of course. Holding midfielders, definitely Matt Polster. Could be a toss-up between Mark Anthony Kaye and Ian Hartz, but it seems like Porter does prefer someone like Mark Anthony Kaye. Back line, again, a little bit of a question mark considering Spalding ended up with that illness, but assuming he's better, I would imagine Spalding at left back, Nick Lima at right back, and you have Arriaga and Kessler at center back. And Caleb Porter said it, and I'm not surprised. He brought in Ivacic. Ivacic is the starter moving forward. So it's interesting with Bruce Arena. There would always be like a player who's missing, and just like for random injury or for some random reason. With Caleb Porter, especially this point in the season, you know what they got, and you know who is Caleb's guys. And like I said, those players I just named, those are Caleb's guys, and those are the guys he's going to want to start.
No Andrew Farrell, huh?
Andrew, it's rough because it really seems like when the Revolution are healthy, I think he's going to be a bench player. I think Caleb Porter prefers to have him at center back. I think at right back, you have Brandon Bai, Nick Lima, and then it would be Andrew Farrell kind of in that third slot. And then at center back, I would say it's probably Arriaga, Kessler, and then it's kind of a toss-up between Mensah and Farrell. So obviously he's a guy who I know the fans can be a little bit iffy on, is he a club legend or this or not, but he's been here for so long. And
for real, man,
especially
the Andre draft, right? 2014,
bro. I believe so. It's insane how long he's been here, one club, and like I hope he gets treated well. And he seems like a player who can kind of handle that reduction in role, and I think he's great for the locker room. But it definitely seems like with Caleb coming in, he's more of a bench option, someone to come off the bench, which again, center backs aren't necessarily getting swapped out that much. So his playing time will take a hit, but I do think he plays an important role, especially in the locker room for the team.
Can't remember the last time playing New England not seeing Farrell back there, man. It's some position back there. It's going to be
telling you, these two teams is completely different, man.
I know, man. I wish it was a little bit more different for the Union, but it is a little bit different, man. Give me that final score prediction, brother.
Yeah, again, if you told me, kind of before doing the opposite research, obviously, I've kind of seen the Union on the standings and all that. I probably would have said like Union like 2-1 or something like that, but I don't know. I for some reason I think the Revolution pull it out. I do think it will probably be a sloppy game. Give me 2-1 Revs.
2-1 Revs, dude. I think this. I think in the score sheet's going to be a snooze fest, but listen, it's New England, Philadelphia. There's going to be some chippiness. Henry Kessler is going to get in Ali's face. Ali's going to come in like the 55th minute. Henry and Ali are going to get into it. Like there's going to be something. As long as if somehow you said Bobby's not going to play, right? He's been dealing with injury.
He's just he might be on the bench or yeah, but I mean you mentioned Bobby Wood. Would love to see a meeting of the minds of Bobby Wood and Kai Wood.
Yeah, as long as Kai doesn't say anything freaking racist, I'm good with that, right?
Yeah, so, not knowing or knowing that Bobby speaks German too.
Yeah,
like, a great part of that.
Oh man, New England and Philly. So I think it's going to be a snooze fest in the scoreboard, but I think there's definitely going to be some type of extracurricular activity because it's just how the Revs and the Union are always going to play. But I think it's going to be a 0-0. I don't see any goals happening here, man. I see a lot of chances too. I just don't see any goals happening. The Union coming off of a midweek match too. It's gonna be tough. An NYCFC match. I mean, you guys don't like NYCFC too, so you know how tough it is playing those dudes too. So it should be very interesting for sure, brother.
Yeah, and I mean, it will be interesting to see. Definitely, kind of watching that last game. It seems like the Union can be picked apart on the counter. But also the Revs have struggled to really get in transition and kind of keep the ball moving forward. It seems like in transition, my colleague Steph Maycombers notices this all the time. They'll be going in transition, and it's like you want to keep moving forward, and for some reason they'll just pass the ball back. So if they're able to kind of move in transition and kind of really get the ball moving quickly, maybe they'll start to, get those goals and kind of, make it interesting. But if not, it definitely could be kind of a snooze fest, like you're saying.
Sam, Listen, you heard it here first. Sam unlocked it. Listen, the Union have struggled in transition defense. New England's going to get a goal in transition now, just because you just
Oh, man. Oh, man. I mean, that's good for New England. New England will be happy. We'll have something to be happy for, so I'll take it.
Well, the running joke for us here, Sam, is that we do all these previews before each match. And every time we get someone from the other team, they tell us we've been struggling with this, we've been struggling with that. And then the Union just allow that team who have that weakness to they just expose the Union with it. Like it's absolutely wild. We talked about Orlando a couple weeks ago with the attack struggling. Boom, they put 3 on us. Like it's that bad right now, Union Nation. So you heard it here first. New England's going to get a transition goal here from Sam, our boy Sam there.
I mean, at least we can commiserate and we can both be like, wow, our team is really not doing well.
Absolutely, man. And listen, man, I remember I did live through some of those years in the 2010s, but definitely it's weird to feel what they're going through right now, man. But with that, Sam, dude, it's always an honor having you. I love talking soccer with you, brother. Let the people know where they can find your great work, man.
Yeah, definitely check out the Blaze and Musket. We're covering, all of New England soccer, obviously covering the New England Revolution, but I cover Vermont Green. We got writers covering Hartford Athletic, Rhode Island FC, even, all the way down to USLE too. So definitely check us out. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Minton22. But JP, I mean, always a pleasure chopping it up with you. And hopefully our two teams can perform better.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, we'll definitely chop it up for the next match. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Sam. Thank you for you guys for listening on in. We will have Renee for Monday's live show. We'll be in the studio to recap this matchup here and talk everything Philadelphia Union. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This is another edition of PHLY Union. We'll see you next week. Duke on, ladies and gentlemen. Duke on.